You're watching Chilly Boy Productions. I'm Larry Chilly Boy Chillson, and this is my review for Nosferatu. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. Nosferatu is a 2024 gothic horror drama directed with a screenplay also adapted by Robert Eggers. In the 1830s, estate agent Thomas Hutter travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok. In his absence, Hutter's new bride, Ellen, is left under the care of their friends. Plagued by horrific visions and a foreboding sense of dread, Ellen soon encounters an evil force far beyond her control. The film stars Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Willem Dafoe, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ralph Ineson, Emma Corrin, and Bill Skarsgård. So I happen to adore Robert Eggers as a director. He's very divisive. I know people love, people hate, people don't get Eggers' work. I have really enjoyed all three of his films, with The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman all being really strong efforts for me. Plus, as a horror fan, obviously I know and love Nosferatu, as well as most all of the old classic Dracula films, the old Universal Monsterverse. So when I heard we were combining Robert Eggers and his filmmaking prowess with the tale of Nosferatu, this origin vampire story, I could not have been more excited for this adaptation. And thankfully, it delivered. Yes, Nosferatu is fantastic. So, let's go ahead and talk about the positives first. Well, I want to start off just praising Robert Eggers, his direction, and his just sense of filmmaking here, because he has created this stunning gothic horror romance in such a beautiful fashion. Everything down to the cinematography and the color palette of Nosferatu is fantastic. It's beautiful. It creates a completely different world for the audience to be invited into. The production design is absolutely stellar. The costume design is beautiful. The cinematography is absolute perfection for this gothic romance. His use of lingering the camera on actors is fantastic. Lingering on different scenes is perfect. Just everything about the filmmaking here is just everything about the technical filmmaking here is spot on perfection. And I happen to love a good gothic fairy tale of sorts. And when you add in the perfect amount of horror to spice it all, then yeah, I am hooked. And that's exactly what Nosferatu accomplishes. It is this ever inviting sense of dread throughout. We as an audience are constantly being drawn into this foreboding that our main character, played by Lily Rose Depp, is also drawn into, and he does that expertly well. And I think it works so well as a gothic piece of filmmaking because it doesn't rely so heavily on the horrors of the imagery as much as it does setting up this beautiful gothic world and then laying the horror upon that. The acting here is fantastic. I have to first and foremost give it up to our boy Bill Skarsgård, a horror icon at this point. He is Count Orlok. First of all, the hair and makeup department, top tier. Absolutely stunning. You can't even see Our boy Bill Skarsgård in this makeup, and his performance is amazing. I loved his performance of Count Orlok. I loved that voice that he put on, the rolling of the R's, everything he affected for this character was perfection. His physical presence was fantastic. Oh, an amazing performance. I do think Lily Rose Depp is very good in this film, though we're going to loop back around to her and some creative decisions made with her character in the negatives. However, I think she delivered exactly what she was asked for. Nicholas Hoult is also fantastic. Aaron Taylor Johnson is great. Emma Corrin is fantastic. And then we have Willem Dafoe bringing the energy only Willem Dafoe can bring to this, and it was perfect for the occasion. Obviously, we already know that clearly Robert Eggers loves Willem Dafoe. But that's because they have such a beautiful blend and marriage of their filmmaking style that he fits perfectly into pretty much every setting Robert Eggers has created thus far. I also absolutely adored the original score. I think it is fantastic and does so much to create and aid the cinematography in projecting this dark atmosphere. The story itself is wonderful. It really does harken back to old school Dracula, Nosferatu tales, these old style of vampire movies. And what I love is that there is this passion there. It is a story of desire, which so often in modern filmmaking we lose with the vampires. But it's such a rock base of the mythical creature that is woven into the very nature of this screenplay, and it's done so well. That kind of forbidden romance, that unrequited desire that's here, that sense of not quite as unrequited desire as our main character would lead on, is all beautifully handled. I really adored everything it had to do. I really adored everything to do with the desire within the screenplay and how it's brought to life. I also loved the visions. I thought those were fantastic, really differentiating itself away from the older tales of Nosferatu and Dracula himself, because it imbues a lot of that lore is just woven in to not only the screenplay but the production design, the story beats, all of it. And I absolutely loved the ending of this film. I think it ends on a pitch perfect note. So then, what doesn't work so well when it comes to Nosferatu? Well, my biggest complaint is the slight tonal inconsistencies. Now, I think this is very much an intentional choice where we jump into a very old school way of filmmaking where we go almost camp with it, not quite to a level that I would classify anything in Nosferatu as campy. However, we go so big and over exaggerated, particularly with Lily Rose Depp's character, her acting and what she does, that every now and then you almost want to start laughing at what you're watching rather than have it be some sort of transformative experience. It's transformative to her as the character, and it really should be kind of horrifying. And in a sense, it is, but on the surface level, it's actually a lot more comedic. And I think that comes down to both the performance and the direction on that front. So while all of the dark material is handed to perfect, so while all of this dark, romantic desire is handled to absolute perfection in the film, it's those moments where it alleviates out and tries to give us that old school way of acting, that old school way of creating these monster movies, that felt almost out of place. And I also think there's some interpersonal relationships here that never feel fully fleshed out. We feel like we've been dropped in at a middle time rather than ever getting the full sense of these people's relationships. We're told a lot about how this person feels about that person or how their dynamic has played into this. And I don't know. And I think maybe if we had had just a touch more time at the beginning, further developing the interpersonal relationships that will be exposed as we move throughout, I think it could have hit just a touch harder. But honestly, that second one specifically is a nitpick. I do think the tonal shifts were a bit too dramatic, but Other than that, I really think Nosferatu is a gothic wet dream. It's stunning, it's dark, it's beautiful. Everything about it gives you that dark desire you're hoping for heading into the film. Now, if you're a fan of modern day horror, this definitely harkens back to, once again, more of an old school way of filmmaking. It's not a straight up horror with jump scares and the like that modern day horror has kind of made a bedrock on. Instead, it lays down that darkness in atmosphere. It builds this foreboding dread in which it lays more horrifying actual imagery or events on top of. And I think it does so in such a beautiful, stunning way. However, I also do think audiences should know that they're not going in for a straight up horror film. I think they're going in much more for a gothic, dark romance of sorts. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, I think Nosferatu makes for quite the interesting, and should I say, perfect Christmas Day viewing. I absolutely adored this film, and I think anybody who's a fan of the horror genre should definitely rush out and check out Nosferatu. So that is my review for Nosferatu. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Nosferatu? And what is your favorite vampire movie? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up over on Blue Sky. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.